Welcome to the Veterinary Services Grant Program, Rural Practice Enhancement, or RPE Application Overview. I am Bob Smith, Veterinarian and National Program Leader for Animal Health and Veterinary Medicine of the National Institute for Food and Agriculture within USDA. Today, Danielle and I will review RPE eligibility, the application and review process, acceptance and award, and lastly, resources available to you through the application process. The VSGP is authorized by the 2014 Farm Bill to make competitive grants available to qualified entities or individuals that carry out educational programs or services for the purpose of developing, implementing, and sustaining food animal veterinary services and relieving veterinary shortage situations across the U.S. Funding is allocated each year for two awards in two program areas. First, Education, Extension, and Training, or EET, and second, the Rural Practice Enhancement, or RPE. This year, based on the current continuing resolution, current appropriations for funding is set for $3 million. 2/3 of the available funds, or $2 million, are allocated for EET awards in the amounts ranging from a minimum of $75,000 to a maximum of $250,000. This funding amount includes up to 30% for indirect costs. Eligible applicants for the EET program area include colleges or schools of veterinary medicine accredited by the American Veterinary Medical Association, national, allied, or regional food animal professional veterinary organizations such as the American Association of Bovine Practitioners, recognized by the AVMA, a Department of Veterinary Sciences affiliated with a state agriculture experiment station associated with an 1862 land grant institution, or a research farm associated with an 1890 land grant institution, or a state's Department of Agriculture, or a tribal government agency. Activities for EET include covered expenses for attending training in food safety and food animal and production medicine, establish or expand accredited educational programs, veterinary residencies and fellowships, or veterinary internships and externships, providing continuing education and extension needed to strengthen veterinary programs and enhance food safety, and a 3-year commitment is expected of each awardee. The Rural Practice Enhancement Grants are for establishing or expanding veterinary practices by equipping veterinary offices, sharing in reasonable costs of operating a qualified veterinary practice, and or establishing mobile veterinary facilities in which a portion of the facilities will address education or extension needs. 1/3 of available funds, or $1 million, are allocated for RPE projects with awards amounts ranging between a minimum of $75,000 to a maximum of $125,000. Funds may be used to equip veterinary practice and offices, share in reasonable overhead to include salary, office rent, vehicle fuel, software, maintenance contracts and equipment, and utilities. Funds are not to be used for construction or remodeling of buildings. Eligible RPE applicants include individuals or entities, nonprofit or for-profit, located in U.S. or territories such as Puerto Rico that have a mixed or large animal veterinary clinic which provides services in a rural area and a designated veterinary shortage area. We encourage all RPE applicants to review the Veterinary Services Grant Program overview for additional information on the veterinary shortage designated process. Select a veterinary shortage situation for the fiscal year you wish to apply to serve. Active awardees of the Veterinary Medicine Loan Repayment Program, referred to as the VMLRP, may apply for VSGP RPE using their original veterinary shortage situation area.
Before starting the application process, thoroughly read through the request for applications, or as we like to call it, the RFA. The RFA provides specific details on what the RPE funds can be used for, how to write your application, and how you will be reviewed and ranked by a panel of veterinary food animal experts. The RFA is your guide to apply for this grant. This slide provides an overview of the application process. Applicants are encouraged to obtain the Data Universal Numbering System, or DUNS number, and register with the System for Award Management, or SAM, as soon as possible, even if you haven't decided if you will apply yet. These numbers are required for the application, and the process to obtain them can take a few weeks, which could delay your ability to submit an application by the deadline. Ensure when registering for a SAM account that you register as an entity doing business with the federal government. Once you have a DUNS number in a SAM account, register with Grants.gov and enter the funding opportunity number for VSGP, which is located on the RFA. After entering the funding opportunity number on Grants.gov, you will be able to download the application package. It is important that you have the required version of Adobe Reader compatible with Grants.gov and that all attached documents you submit are in PDF format. After reviewing your application package for completeness, you will submit to NIFA no later than the deadline on the current RFA. We encourage you to start the application process early to ensure any problems with technology do not impact your submission. We will not cover the details of working with Grants.gov in today's webinar. NIFA provides an array of resources for understanding how to navigate Grants.gov. We encourage all interested applicants to review the steps needed to apply for any NIFA grant and the NIFA training module that provides new applicants a guide for using Grants.gov. Links to these resources can be easily accessed by going to the VSGP applicants webpage seen here at the bottom of this slide. One of the most important documents of your application is the project narrative. For RPE grants, the narrative is limited to 7 pages and allows for 2 additional pages for facts, figures, and tables. This table is a suggestion of the sections that should be addressed in the narrative and the approximate number of pages of written text to dedicate to each section. The third column indicates where reviewers will be looking for review criteria within your narrative. This table is in the RFA, and we encourage you to reference the RFA for additional details on what should be included in each section.
In the problem identification section of your narrative, you should clearly state the perceived problems occurring in veterinary shortage situations you are applying to serve, as stated by the SAHO, or from your own personal knowledge. Note that veterinary shortage situation nominations clearly state the specific problems and needs on page 2 of the shortage nomination form. It is recommended to use roughly half a page for this section, which will be evaluated on technical merit. The evaluation criteria will be discussed later in details. Describe the scope of your current practice: number of clients, number of farms, number of herds, number of farm calls, weekly, monthly, and yearly. How is it equipped, and etc. Does your practice provide for haul-ins? And if so, what portion of the practice is it? State why you and your clinic are professionally, geographically, and functionally poised to effectively relieve the veterinary shortage area to which you have applied to serve. Provide supporting information that substantiates the need for the proposed resources. The recommendation is to use roughly 1 page for the introduction and background section, which will be evaluated on technical merit and expertise and experience. In the objectives section, include a clear statement of the goals and supporting objectives of the proposed services. All applications must include statements of overarching aims and goals and corresponding specific objectives of the proposed effort in clear, concise, and complete and logically arranged terms. For example, describe what is expected to be accomplished in each of the 3 years of the grant project period. Objectives should be focused on the project period and may also consider any potential long-term impact beyond the funding period. The recommendation is to use roughly 1 page for the introduction and background section, which will be evaluated on technical merit.
The approach section is the largest section of your project narrative. Your approach should focus on proposed services and should match the needs specified in the shortage nomination form. Use this section to be detailed in describing the strategies, tactics, and/or business plan you will employ using the resources you propose to acquire through support from this grant to achieve your stated goals and objectives. Please refer to the RFA for specific examples of what to include in this section. Where applicable, this section may include, but not necessarily be limited to, descriptions of planned stakeholder client involvement in veterinary service, include a description of the relationships with local community leaders and producers in identifying best strategies to mitigate veterinary service shortages, and most effective methods of evaluating effectiveness of strategies employed. Describe proposed activities over the 3-year grant period. Business or veterinary services, including consultants to be employed, including feasibility and rationale. Education or extension activities that will be offered, including the amount of time that will be devoted to these activities. Methods used to collect, analyze, and interpret evaluation or impact data. Plans to communicate increased or enhanced services to clients in the veterinary shortage situation area, and plans to communicate results to stakeholders and the public. The recommendation is to use roughly 3 pages for the approach section, which will be evaluated on technical merit. The timetable section of your project narrative should outline important phases and major milestones as a function of time, year by year, for the entire project, including periods beyond the funding period. The timetable must meet the minimum 3-year commitment. This section can be provided in paragraph form or in a well-organized table. The recommendation is to allocate roughly 1/2 of a page for the project timetable section, which will be evaluated on technical merit. You can submit an additional 2 pages for facts and figures to support your project narrative. Any facts and figures included in your proposal must be relevant to the proposed project. Please note that extended narratives in these 2 pages will be rejected.
The budget justification is your opportunity to itemize how funds will be used with a brief description for specific activities or equipment. For example, if requesting a new ultrasound, explain specifically what it will be used for and how it will be used to achieve your goals and objectives. If requesting a new head gate or portable foot table, explain how these will be used to expand your practice and improve the safety of the people operating it and the animals using it. The budget justification must not exceed 5 pages of 1.5 spaced text and could also include pictures, figures, or tables. The font size for tables should be no smaller than 11 points times New Roman. The page limits ensure fair and equitable competition. RPE applicants are required to submit the veterinary shortage situation nomination form they wish to serve as an additional attachment. To do this, review the veterinary shortage situation map for the correct fiscal year you are applying. Download the nomination form PDF and save it to your computer. You will upload the nomination form as an additional attachment with your application materials. The image to the right is what the nomination form looks like. As a reminder, you can only apply to serve one veterinary shortage situation area. All RPE applicants must submit a map that clearly defines and identifies the location of the practice, the radius of the service area of the practice, and the counties of service identified on the veterinary shortage situation nomination form. The map must be submitted as a PDF. An example of a map RPE applicants is provided on the Veterinary Services Grant Program webpage.
A second map is required for applicants to Type 1 veterinary shortage situation areas. This map must display that the Type 1 veterinary shortage situation is eligible as rural on the USDA property eligibility map. A link to this resource is available in the RFA. To search eligibility of a Type 1 area you wish to serve, enter the street, city, and state of the center of the veterinary shortage situation area the practice will serve. Please note this information is on the first page of the nomination form. The search will indicate if the Type 1 shortage is in an eligible area. Select the print option on the web page to save the map as a PDF. The image to the right of the screen is what will be provided as a PDF when you select the print option. This map must be included for Type 1 applications as a PDF. Please contact VSGP staff if you have issues with this process, as we are happy to assist. A data management plan is required for this program. These data should support the anticipated results and reporting of outcomes of your project. Applicants should clearly articulate how the project director or PD plans to manage and disseminate the data generated by the project. The data management plan will be considered during the panel review process. The data management plan can be as little as 1 paragraph and must be no longer than 1 page. The data management plan must be included as an additional PDF attachment with your application materials. The data management plan must include a description of data format. The selected data format is at the discretion of the project director. Data storage and preservation. Data must be stored in a secure environment with adequate measures taken for the length of time of the program and 3 years after the grant end date. Applicants must describe plans for storing and preserving their data during and after the project. Include any strategies, tools, contingency plans that will be used to avoid data loss, degradation, or damage. When preparing your data management plan, you should consider how you will maintain confidentiality of producers. No personal or proprietary information should be submitted to NIFA. Data sharing, protection, and public access. Include a statement, when applicable, of plans to protect confidentiality, personal privacy, proprietary interest, business confidential information, and intellectual property rights. And lastly, roles and responsibilities. state who will implement the data management plan. For RPE applicants, data management plans could include documentation of enhanced services provided in the shortage area based on the categories of funding in the budget justification. This can be simple and brief, again, a few sentences or a maximum of 1 page. For example, a data management plan can be as simple as the following. Data will be stored in an Excel spreadsheet, which will be located on a clinic computer with security access. The project director will maintain confidentiality of clients by removing names. Data will be made available upon request. The project director will be responsible for managing this plan. If you submitted this application in the past and it was declined an award, you are required to submit a response to previous review, and you must check box 8, resubmission, on the SF 424 form. The response to previous review must not exceed 1.5 spaced pages, and title this document Response to Previous Review. This is a response to the stated weaknesses and should include how you have made adjustments based on the previous panel's summary of your proposal. If desired, additional comments may be included in the text of the project narrative to the page limitations of each section. The response to previous review must be saved as a PDF and uploaded as an additional attachment.
Here we offer guidance on how to avoid common errors for the RPE applications. First, all attachments in your application must be in PDF format. It is important to disable any security features with your PDF, such as a password protection and editing. File name should be 50 characters or less and should not have special characters. Second, use meaningful file names, like the example we provided for project title for RPE grants that includes a shortage ID and project title, or shortage ID and project narrative. Third, do not include headers or footers in any of your documents. We encourage you to use section headings as part of the text. Consider the subsections of the project narrative that we reviewed earlier. These can be subheadings. Fourth, please follow the guidelines for fonts, margins, and page limits as detailed in the RFA. Fifth, make sure the shortage area is in the title. Finally, do not wait until the last day to apply. Once you submit your application with Grants.gov, you will receive an email confirmation that it was received. You will also receive various emails from Grants.gov that will say if your application passed validation checks and is being sent on to the agency, or if your application did not pass the validation check and was rejected for review. It is important to know that if you are able to submit your application a few days early, you have the opportunity to resubmit it in case you forgot to add an important document or need to make important last-minute corrections. Remember, only the final submission will be accepted for consideration. After NIFA receives all applications, a 3-part evaluation process begins. The initial screening occurs during the first week after receipt of the first steps in the review process, and it's conducted by NIFA staff to ensure compliance and completeness of the grant application. Ineligible applicants, incomplete applications, and late applications will not be approved for peer review. Budgets proposed outside the $75,000 to $125,000 range for RPE projects will not be reviewed. Finally, Proposals without the identification of shortage area in the title will not be accepted. After the initial screening, applicants will receive a letter of confirmation or rejection as described earlier in this webinar. Next, applications that pass the initial screening will move to the peer review process. Here, applicants will be evaluated for content based on the review criteria listed in the RFA by the external peer review panel composed of veterinary subject matter experts from academia, private practice, state or federal government, and industry. This process takes approximately 6 to 8 weeks. Text comments from reviewers for all proposals, funded and non-funded, will be sent to all applicants within 2 to 4 weeks after the panel has met. After the technical peer review panel has met and potential awardees have been determined, applicants whose proposals have been recommended for funding are contacted by phone. Be aware the awards are not granted until after the administrative review, which could take 6 to 8 weeks and usually occurs the month of September. This process is conducted by the Awards Management Division from our Office of Grants and Financial Management. They will check the DUNS and SAMS number, examine the budget, and determine the applicant is eligible to receive the grant. They will process the grant, which the awardee will sign and arrange for funds to be made available through the Department of the Treasury to the awardee. Awards are typically finalized during September. The distribution of funds will occur shortly after the awards have been made and may take a couple of weeks. Do not plan to spend any of the funds until the funds are deposited into your bank account. Equipment and supplies can be purchased a few weeks before the grant is finalized, but it will be at the clinic's expense until the funds to the grant are released. If interested in doing this, awardees would need to contact the VSGP program office in advance. RPE applications have 2 key review criteria. First, expertise and experience will be weighed for 30% of the peer review process. Importance will be given to the applications that demonstrate knowledge, skills, abilities, and experience of key personnel relative to the shortage area needs. Second, technical merit will be weighed for 70% of the peer review process. This includes clarity of objectives, activities, and outcomes, clarity of current practice operations, value of proposed equipment, overhead, and or mobile practice facilities in the budget, content and delivery approaches for education or extension activities if funds are to be used to purchase or expand mobile facilities, including time commitment, size, and demographics of intended audience. Conceptual adequacy of the proposed activities to meet the needs of the veterinary shortage situation. In other words, how will services be established or expanded, marketed, client recruitment, or developed strategies. Likelihood to achieve proposed outcomes, including realistic benchmarks for assessing progress and assessing outcomes for the clients and community. Lastly, this includes an assessment of the reasonableness of the budget for proposed resources. Details of the review criteria for RPE applications can be found in the RFA.
In general, here are a few points for writing an application that will make a good impression on reviewers. Know your audience. Who and where are the people you propose to train, and what do they need? How will you engage, educate, and train them? How will you serve a specific shortage situation area? Propose a solid work plan that is ambitious but achievable. Lastly, focus on results. Think about what should be expected as a result of your proposed approach to meet the shortage area needs. We want to remind you that there are a variety of resources available for your guidance as you piece together your application. The RFA will be your best resource for instructions and details to include in your application. The recorded program overview webinar provides information on the intent of the program. Our annual and historical reports include information about previous funded projects. Our fact sheet provides an overview of the program. An example map is located on our webpage and is the same example we share in this webinar. Lastly, our VSGP team is a resource for you. We truly enjoy connecting with applicants and welcome the opportunity to answer your questions, meet with you virtually, or speak with you over the phone. We are available upon request. Please feel free to reach out via email at vsgp@usda.gov or use the contact information located in the RFA.